Well, it's that time of year again, boys and girls. So currently Christmas Eve. I have just dropped off a handful of little presents to the guys that work for us, and their sort of partners, if you like, just to sort of say thank you for the graft, thank you for, you know, the work that they've done, and ultimately thank them for, you know, making what we do sustainable and successful. I've seen a couple of guys, and I just wanted to get this video out, to be honest with you. I've seen a couple of guys posting on your faceache, social medias, etc., and they're talking about things like expanding. It's that time of year again, isn't it? We've gone from one end of the year to the other end of the year. A lot of people are getting frustrated. A lot of people are thinking, oh, this is the last year I'm working on my own, I'm going to take some staff on and blah blah. And then you've got that little voice in your head that goes, oh well, no, you know, you've got to take what money you've got and, you know, sort of, you know, spend it. You know, perhaps if you've never had that level of money in your life before, etc., you earn it and then you've got almost an impulse, you know, you're almost compelled to spend it, and potentially waste it on stuff that you've never had. Okay. And there is almost this sort of primitive part of your mind that says, well, I've not had that before, and you make excuses, and then you sort of say, well, I've not had it before, I'll spend it because, you know, I deserve a treat, I've worked hard all year, sort of thing, and I deserve a treat. And I think this is a lot of the time, a lot of the time this is brought on as well by Christmas, and there's this whole, you know, you see other people spending money at Christmas, and you see that, you know, there's these, you know, you're bombarded by advertisements, by this, by that, by the other, and there's almost this pressure from society to spend that money. You've earned it, you know, and all this sort of, well, it is Christmas and all this sort of stuff, and it takes some real discipline to sort of turn around and go, no, it's not yet, sort of thing. And I remember when I very first started the business, etc., it was a one-man band. It was like, started in October 2015, you know, doing trad, didn't have a van, didn't have a vehicle, just worked the local houses around it, my local area, etc. Took 3 months to build up a sustainable round, bought a van in December, managed to get it insured for the following January, and then I hit the ground running in January, and I worked my ass off for a full 18 months on my own, and then, you know, got to the end of the first year, and I'd earned a good amount of money, and I was almost trying to convince myself that, you know, I deserved to spend money on a flash holiday, or on, you know, or spend, you know, or splash it all on the kids, and, you know, and all this sort of stuff. And as a side note, I know a guy called Andy. He's a cracking bloke. He's on the, you know, he's you know, currently on the benefits, etc. And, you know, God love the guy, right? But every single year, he will spend in excess of around 600 quid on his immediate family for Christmas. Just his family. And he was, you know, his kids especially are on, like, you know, you know, and he indebts himself. He spends all that money, and he spends a good 6 months paying it off, and then he gets himself level again, and then he smashes it again for the following Christmas, and it's just a never-ending cycle for him. He never seems to have enough money. No matter how hard he works, he never seems to earn enough. And I think the biggest problem with that is that he feels that when he was growing up, he didn't have a lot of money. So he wants his kids to have what he didn't have at Christmas. And I think in some respects, who can blame him, right? But we had a sit down, we had a conversation and a bit of a chat. You know, because I love the guy. He's a good guy. I wouldn't wish any ill on him. I wouldn't wish any ill on anybody, but especially him. To be fair, he grafts his ass off a lot of the time. You know, but he's fallen on hard times. He's now on the benefit system, etc., and he's now struggling mentally to sort of pull himself out of this ravine, if you like. And sometimes the truth hurts, right? And you know who your friends are when they will call you out on your bullshit, when they will sort of turn around to you and say, hang on a minute, mate, calm down, Spartacus, and give you the truth. Sometimes the truth can hurt, okay? And the truth is that this lad, in his mind, he's saying, I want my kids to have the things that I didn't have growing up. And I can relate to that, because when I was growing up, we didn't have much money either. And I had even less when I moved out of the family home and I tried to find my own way, and I made all sorts of financial mistakes and all this sort of effort. Look, I get it, okay? But when a person says, I want my kids to have things I didn't have, do you think they are better served by the balls, the niff-naff and trivia, the having all the toys, the latest gear, the brands, etc., and all this sort of stuff? Do you think that their life is enriched by those things? Or do you think that really, if you took that money and you invested it in things like, you know, things that will enrich their life, things like education, and I don't mean the mainstream education, I don't mean carrying university debt, I'm talking about reading a book on money, reading a book on businesses, etc. And there are books out there. A Rich Dad, Poor Dad from Robert Kiyosaki changed my life. Okay, I learned more in the 90 minutes it took me to read that book than I did in the 8 years previous of education. And I went all the way through school, not knowing anything about money. I went home and my parents didn't know anything about money in real terms. They knew that they had to exchange their time for money and all this sort of effort. And in the 90 minutes that my friend Danny Prince gave me a book, and he's a plumbing and heating engineer, he gave me this book and it revolutionised how I think about money. And now I implement that in my life now. And it's not just that book, there's other books, you know, on stuff like that. I'm not trying to preach or sell books, but I'm trying to get across the point that your children's lives surely are more enriched by, you know, mindset, education, you know, teaching them the value of money. Because here's the thing, right? You are your children's best teacher. And my children, how they live their life is a reflection of how I've raised them as a parent. Good, bad, indifferent. So they'll learn the good things in my character. They'll learn the bad things in my character. There is absolutely not a goddamn thing I can do about it. So my children see me run my business. You know, I get them involved. I help, you know, sometimes they do the spreadsheets, and sometimes they'll send the notifications and all this sort of stuff, and sometimes I'll let them send an email and, you know, and all this sort of stuff, and they'll type things, and I get them involved. Why do I get them involved? Because their life is ultimately going to be enriched by the fact that they have seen me run a business. Your expectations are set by your parents. I don't want to go on to a long-winded rant about this, but you've got to look at where have you learned most of your lessons? Most of the lessons that each and every one of us have learned in our life have come from our parents, okay? So spending all that money at Christmas is a norm. It becomes a norm. That child then grows up thinking, right, well, when I grow up, I'm going to have to spend that much money at Christmas. That's the done thing, you know? Now, in our house, we don't spend that much money on Christmas. It's not because I'm a skinflint. It's because, truly, my daughters now are getting to the age now, so my eldest is 13, my youngest is going to be 11 in March. But when the children are young, and I mean really young, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 years old, are they going to look back and remember each individual Christmas? Are they going to hold against you the fact that you didn't spend hundreds of pounds each, thousands of pounds, if you like, on the whole family on their 6th birthday, when they were 6 years old, when they were at Christmas? No, they're not. but the lessons that you teach them as they get older, the values you still instill in them, yeah, that's what matters, you know. And so, going back to Andy again, his kids are going to grow up expecting that Christmas, you spend hundreds of pounds, etc. It's the norm. It's the done thing. My dad did it. I will do it. But how much richer would his life be if he just taught them how to manage money? If he taught them, you know, if he took a stand and learned. If we all learn and pass that knowledge on to our children, then that is money in the bank, isn't it? But I hear a number of people sort of saying that they're going to take staff on and all this sort of stuff. And, you know, when I get to this amount of money, you know, I'm going to reward myself with this and all that sort of stuff. If you choose to sort of deny that monkey mind, that primitive side of your brain that says, I've gone without, you know, and all this sort of stuff. And then when you get to that milestone in your head of that, say, right, well, when I get £2,000 in the bank, or when I get £3,000 or whatever, or even 100 quid, you know, deny yourself the immediate urge to spend that money on shit, and, you know, to spend that money on something that doesn't make your life better in the long run. Deny yourself that gratification of taking that money and spending it and then not seeing it again. You know what I mean? Spend it on something that will make a difference in your life. So, for example, I see a lot of guys on social media, on the window cleaning forums, etc., talking about, well, this is my year. I want to take on staff and all this sort of good stuff. And if we're brutally honest with ourselves, okay, the vast majority of people will just bottle it. They'll go, no, I'll you know, even though they might want to grow, they will bottle it. They will turn around and say, oh, well, you know, it's not the right time, and I'll make excuses. And the truth is, you know, if you're being brutally honest with yourself, you're procrastinating and making excuses. And I've done it. But rather than sort of taking a lump sum of money and then just splurging it, you know, you would more often than not, be better taking a proportion of that money, and sure, reward yourself in the short term, but then take the vast majority of it and invest it in your business. You know, you want to take on staff, right? Well, that's going to cost money. They ain't going to work for you for free, you know. So surely putting a bit to one side. And I'm getting now into the headspace of, even now, I'm learning lessons. I'm not by no means perfect, but I'm learning lessons as I go. And I'm talking to people who run bigger businesses than me, far bigger than me. You know what I mean? And I'm trying to learn lessons from them. To, you know, things like, you know, it sounds daft, but, you know, little things like, you know, putting money to one side, level of profit versus your level of loss. You know, things like your staffing, your culture within the business, etc. So, for example, like I said today, I've just dropped off a handful of presents, etc. You know, it's the first year that I've bought presents for all the guys. Doesn't mean that I'm more grateful now than I have ever been. But I want to be able to tell my guys how grateful I am that they are working for us, etc., and instill that culture, because they do care, they do work hard, you know, and that sort of stuff. And I want to reward them, even if it's just little gifts at Christmas, something that says thank you. You know what I mean? I'm learning these lessons now. Now, you know, you could take whatever Christmas tips you've got, etc., and all that sort of stuff. We've all been there. You might have got your Christmas tips, and you might be thinking, right, well, you know, let's just blow it all on a massive blowout and all that sort of stuff. Fine. But if you want to grow as a business, you're going to have to sort of step away from that primitive side of your brain that everybody has, that says, I have denied myself, I have gone without for so long, and then the first sign of money, bang, you spend it, and then it's gone forever, and it ain't coming back. And you will sort of sit there in your van, you know, when you've got bills due and you've not structured things right, you've taken shortcuts, and these shortcuts and this willingness to sort of, you know, give in to that inner voice, that weak little voice in your head that says, I must spend that money. I deserve this. I deserve this. You talk yourself into deserving this money. This lack of discipline, you know, this is what is is ultimately going to harm your business more than anything, to be honest with you, and your life in general, you know. I say to my girls, even now, my daughters, they're 13 and Amy's nearly 11, and I say to them from the get, any money they get, from whatever source they get it, they must put away at least 20%, you know, and save it. And if I give them £20, you know, and they spend it, and it's like, right, okay, they've spent it, it's gone, okay. This whole bit, and then, you know, they might see something in the shops, you know, 3 or 4 days later, and they'll go, oh, well, Dad, can you buy this for us and all this sort of stuff? And I'll say, well, how much money have you got? Oh, I haven't got anything. Well, you can't have it then. And a lot of parents, and I've had discussions. This has become a video about sort of parenting. It's not meant to be, but it does sort of, there is crossover, isn't there? But now my eldest has got really, really good at being disciplined with money. And my daughter at 13 years old is far more disciplined with her money than I was when I was 17 or 18 years old. So that experience, that almost denial of, yeah, you can have whatever you want, boss, spend your money and all this sort of stuff. That lesson is learned. That lesson is ingrained in her mind, and she is now more disciplined than I ever was at that age. And with any luck, her life will be further enriched going forward versus how I grew up, and then her children, and on and on and on. And she will, you know, program her children, you know what I mean, going forward. If you know, and this is how people grow. I've seen many a time people talking about, you know, the rich getting richer and the poor getting poorer. Yeah, there's a reason why the rich get richer and the poor get poorer, because the rich will take the time to learn these lessons. They will save when others are spending, and they will invest when others are saving. Yeah, and this is why there is such a rich poor gap divide, because those that play the game understand the rules, whereas everybody else puts their own needs first and deals with the consequences later. This buy now, pay later kind of effort. This, you know, you can buy now, but when it comes to paying later, if you are worse off, you know, what is the point? You know, so for those guys and girls that are looking to take on staff, best of luck with it. But you have to master you have to discipline and master yourself before you can bring other people in. You need to know what it takes to master your life, your business, when you're on your own. Because any problems that you have, once you take staff on, okay, are going to be magnified, okay? Your situation is going to be, good or bad, it's going to be magnified when you add other things into the pot, into the equation. When you add staff in, if you've got a really, really good business, when you add staff into that equation, you're going to have a fucking amazing business, yeah? If you are struggling like a mother, yeah, and then you bring other people into the mix, then those problems are going to be magnified. I know a guy personally who used to work for me, who went his own way, started his own business, etc. You know, wanted everything now. He wanted it now, you know, nothing, you know. And in the short term, he grew a business which was massive, and he was turning over 16 grand a month and all this sort of good stuff. He was turning it over, and, you know, he was rolling in money. He was earning far more money than me. But the problem came when he didn't understand the rules of the game. Because when he got his VAT bill, he hadn't put any money to one side. He took on all the staff under the sun. He took on about 4 or 5 staff. He invested in offices. He invested in multiple vehicles. He spent money left, right, and Chelsea. And all that happened was the problems that he had at the beginning got bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger, because he didn't have the discipline. He hadn't mastered his business from day one. He wanted to take all the shortcuts, have all the reward, but not put the graft in. So cautionary tale would be that if you do want to take staff on this coming new year, and you believe honestly that you're ready for it, go for it. But if if you have any doubts, seek advice until those doubts are so small that the fear of failure goes from being overwhelming to being a little nervous. If you're a little nervous, you're doing something right. If you are fucking petrified, yeah, don't do it. If you are absolutely petrified that you're making the wrong decision, then chances are you're making the wrong decision. If you're a little bit nervous, that's natural. Even now, I make decisions today. I don't want to ruin the upcoming videos, but from January, we've bought ourselves a new jet washing vehicle, etc. It's finally landed. It's not ready for use. It still needs a bit of tweaking, etc. And I'll do a video on that in future. But when I purchased that vehicle, the little small part of me was nervous. Even now, even with guys working for me, and even when I'm spending maybe 40% of my time on the tools and the rest of the time managing, the office, if you like, I still get nervous when it comes to money. Why? Because that little monkey brain in the back of my head, that lad that grew up in poverty, yeah, is still there. Okay? And you will never get rid of it. But if you can manage that fear, yeah, do your research and manage that fear, you will learn far more than you'll learn far more lessons, and it will benefit you in the future. But yeah, just want to wish everybody a Merry Christmas. Have a good New Year. Don't work too hard. Work hard enough. Work smart, not hard. Okay, and keep on keeping on, boys and girls. I shall see you in the new year at some point. Take care. All the very best.